White House apparently stonewalling the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform on its request for some of the documents that should be in the White House's possession, Mr. Flynn.
I will correct you on that. The committee sent a form letter to several agencies, including the White House, asking to find those documents. The documents in question, the Department of Defense possessed and sent over to him. The documents that occurred before he worked here would be up to him to turn over. So my understanding is the committee has the documents that they were looking for.
In the letter that Mark Short, and I know that SF-86 was referred to the DIA. And
it wasn't just referred to him, that's where it's held.
Well, I know, but they were referred to the DIA for the SF-86, and apparently they have gained access to that document. But there are other documents that should be in the White House's possession that Mark Short, in a letter to the committee, said the White House can't provide because of sensitive nature. Also said that there were no documents that were available prior to the 20th.
Right.
But I also asked the question, does the White House believe that Lieutenant General Flynn might have broken the law when he filled out SF-86?
I don't. That would be a question for him and a law enforcement agency, whether or not he filled. I don't know what he filled out and what he did or did not do. That all happened. He filled that form out prior to coming here, and so it would be up to the committee and other authorities to look at that. I don't know, but with respect to the letter, they asked for three things. The SF-86, which you properly point out was in the possession of the DIA. My understanding through reports is that they have obtained that. Then they asked for documents prior to January 20th. As you know, through the Constitution, we didn't assume the White House until January 20th at noon, so we don't have the documents prior to assuming the White House. And then the third would be they listed for every call and contact that he made, which is an extraordinary number. That's a very that's a very unwieldy request.
So was it the sheer volume of it, or what?
I mean, it's to say we want the National Security Advisor, whose job it is to talk with foreign counterparts on a daily basis, to document every call that he may or may not have made, is not exactly a request that's able to be filled. But every document that they asked for, my understanding is that they've gotten.
John, is it your position that during the transition, the Trump transition has no custodial possession of any of these documents?
Well, I would, again,
that Flynn filled out as part of the process to become the president's national security advisor. I mean, you seem to be suggesting there's an arm's length relationship.
No,
because transition.
Right, thanks. There's two issues. He had an SF-86, which is a security clearance form that was filled out during the Obama administration. He had a investigation in 2016 that was done under the last administration. And again, those are not documents that the White House would ever possess on any employee. They would come from the requesting authority.
Okay, so...
And so in that case, again, remember, they sent out a form letter to, I think, 5 or 6 agencies requesting the same documents. The place where the documents that they had questioned did fulfill that request.
Right, and I'm just trying to find out from your perspective, is there no obligation, either the transition or the White House, to do anything more than you have done or has been done in this matter?
Everything that the White House has been asked to do, we have made that the only documents that were made available to them that they asked for were the ones that the Department of Defense had.
And how about these calls made when he was working during the transition on behalf of a future President Trump? Aren't those things that you should have some either responsibility or obligation to provide if you can?
Well, I think again, it's a question is if you can. When you ask for every call, no, but I think that's a pretty. There is, I mean, that to ask for every call or contact that a national security advisor made is pretty outlandish, if you will. To say that we want to have a list of everything that you know, but there is no.
But theoretically,
but again,
those calls were made on behalf of the Trump transition, were they not?
When?
When he was in the, I mean, this.
Look,
this
Major, he did not. We started this administration on January 20th.
Right.
All the information that they're talking about occurred prior to him being at the White House.
Right, but
so
working for the transition. And I'm just
then,
saying, is there any obligation you have?
Not at the White House. Everything that is being questioned occurred prior to January 20th.
The delivery of those documents?
But you're acting as if you had no custodial or ethical responsibility of your own transition. That's all I'm trying to
do.
No,
and I guess the question is that what...
He was not making calls as a private citizen. He was making it as a future national security advisor.
I understand that. And right now, to ask the White House to produce documents that were not in the possession of the White House is ridiculous. John.
Thanks a lot, Sean. A few weeks ago, when General Flynn's attorney wrote to the Senate Intelligence Committee suggesting some sort of immunity deal for General Flynn. I asked you a question about whether the White House would be invoking executive privilege. And your response at that time was, no, we have no problem with General Flynn testifying. He's free to do so. We won't be invoking any type of privilege. Does that also apply to any documents that the White House may have relating to General Flynn, his service, his short service as the National Security Advisor to the President, and the time in which he served in the transition period as an advisor to the President-elect?
I think, look, when you ask, I know that when Chaffetz was asked that whether or not what he is looking into had anything to do with the White House, my understanding is he was very clear that that had to do with his time prior to that. So talking about what his role is at the White House seems not germane to any of the questions that are being asked.
What about prior to his service at the White House?
Well, that, again, would have to go to General Flynn. There's nothing that is being asked for with respect to his service here at the White House. The documents that Major was referring to rest within the Department of Defense. My understanding is that they were provided.
And the overall issue of privilege, would you be invoking
We're not.
privilege?
I'm not at this time to answer that question. I don't know the answer. There's nothing that would that I'm responding to on that particular matter. Trey.
And Sean, generally speaking, within the Trump administration, how important is it to the president that everyone working for this administration is honest on their security clearance forms?
Very. And if they don't, then they're going to be, investigated. I mean, but you assume, look, everybody fills out forms all the time. All of us, at some point, we sign our name and swear under oath that everything that's done there. So I think each and every one of us, in different ways, signs our names and agrees to abide by the information that we provide.
Just following up, do you know if the president is aware of the comments that were made by the House Oversight Chairman today? And does he agree at all with the assertion that it seems as though General Flynn was not in compliance with the law?
I'm not. And again, that would be a matter for them to look into, not for us. Caitlin.
Does the White House consider Mike Flynn's payment from Russia today to be a payment from a foreign government?
I don't know. That was, again, all of that occurred prior to his service.
Your White House, does this White House consider a payment from Russia today to be a payment from a foreign government?
I understand. What I'm saying is everything that he did was prior to coming to this White House. So for us to determine someone else's thing as a consultant.
Today, do you consider that to be a payment from a foreign government?
I'm sorry, if what?
If someone took money from Russia today.
If they were an employee of the White House, absolutely. But I mean, again, I don't know the exact circumstances. Everything that is being discussed occurred prior to his employment at the White House, occurred as a consultant. And so whatever he did, as long as he did it in compliance with the law, as every one of us as a citizen has the right to do, that's up to an individual to do and then comply with the law.
To follow up on that, why wasn't he more closely vetted during the transition period?
Well, again, you fill out forms, and
I feel like the White House and the Trump transition team should have known about this before they were having him come to the White House.
Well, again, you fill out the forms, you do an investigation, you do a background check. Every employee gets that background check done, and they have a security clearance, and they fill it out, and that's how everyone operates under the same guise.
I have two questions, but I want to follow up on that. So you're saying that it's a problem with the process of vetting, the vetting process, and not
No, I'm just saying that.
I'm
I'm not saying it's a process with the vetting. I'm saying that every single person who comes to work in here at a certain level is required to fill out the same form, an SF-86, and that background check is adjudicated. You rely on that person when they sign their name, and then investigators to pick it up. But there's always going to be in the case of people who had a prior